Well, hello. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we are ready to get started. I'm Beth Felsky. I'm the Appointments Project Director with United We. I'd like to introduce our President and CEO of United We, Wendy Doyle.
Thank you, Beth. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you. Well, I have the great privilege to introduce the Honorable Mayor of Overland Park, Mayor Skoog, who was elected to office in November of 2021. I know Mayor Skoog is joining us by phone. I've had the privilege of knowing Mayor Skoog for a number of years. We went through a leadership program together, and so it is my honor to introduce him today to say a few words. So, Mayor Skoog, take it away.
Well, thank you, Wendy. Well, I'm excited that this day is finally here, that we're having an opportunity to kick off this important process within the city of Overland Park. For those who may not know, we have lots of committees and appointed positions within the city. And for those groups to be most effective, we need to have representation from across the community. And it's often difficult to find folks who, first of all, that are aware of these appointments, number one, and number two, that are ready to serve. So I'm excited about this initiative, and that we will reach out to a new group of Overland Park residents and others who have a connection to Overland Park to help us really set direction and serve this amazing community of Overland Park. So first of all, thank you all for your participation and interest, and I look forward to watching this progress. So Wendy, thank you for the introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Skoog, and thank you so much for your leadership and your service, and most importantly, your partnership on the Appointments Project. We are so grateful. So thanks for spending a little bit of time with us today. With that,
thank you. I've got to run, so I look forward to hearing reports on how today goes.
Thank you, Mayor Skoog. Thank you. So with that, I have the opportunity, before we really dive into the Appointments Project specifically, to just give you just a Cliff Notes version of United We. And you see here on the screen, our work is working to advance all women economically and civically. And on the next slide, you really see coming to life our mission with some of our specific work. So at our very core, we are an evidence-based, research-driven organization. We are nonpartisan, and we are looking specifically at how we can grow our state's economies and looking at workforce participation. And you see some of the issues that we have prioritized, and I will say, based on some listening that United We has done in the last couple of years, childcare has elevated to the very top for a number of reasons, but we really want to make sure that women are able to stay in the workforce, so supply meeting demand. And then certainly a key component of our mission is civic leadership. And as we were working on our research and looking at some systems change and spending time in our state capitals, we recognized the need to have stronger representation of women around the decision-making table. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Beth to walk through in greater detail about the Appointments Project. And so Beth, our Appointments Project Director, please take it away.
Thanks, Wendy. Yes, Appointments Project was established in 2014 in response to the research, and research is a big part of our work and guides us. And the Appointments Project really has been a great way to engage and empower women to serve on boards and commissions, so that boards and commissions are representative of their community. So we know that there were some reasons for low participation from women to serve. And so you can see here a few of the reasons, including, not being asked, possibly, not really knowing if they did serve, if their time would be used wisely. They really, when they did serve, wanted a sense of belonging once they were at the table. And so we know that when women do serve, there's positive impact, not only for the community, but for the women who serve. We know that there's an increase in public trust in government, a boost in efficiency, and really impacts and improves the lives of residents. And women really have the opportunity to drive innovation by serving on these boards and commissions. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the boards that are some of the research we've currently been looking at, and that includes specific boards in communities. And this is both at the city, county, and state level. So some of these power boards you'll see really are looking at financial allocations of communities, have high decision-making authority, and really impact policies that affect the majority of a community. So some of these boards are like planning and zoning, affect housing and environment. And so just wanted to share some of our recent research. And we know that in Kansas, only 38% of appointees on municipal power boards are women. And so we've got some great speakers today that are going to talk a little bit about their experience serving on some of what we're calling power boards. But you can kind of see the numbers there. So we really encourage women to look at all boards and all opportunities to serve. And we know this also kind of mirrors what's happening at the county and state level as well in terms of the number of women serving, and also is a launching pad for those who might want to go on to elected office. So it's really important for us to engage more women. I wanted to share research provided by Overland Park, and this is data that was collected from a board committee commission survey of members. So they had 77 out of 125 participants. And as I said, the research is an important part, research and data is an important part of our work. So this is what Overland Park has provided. So you can get a look at the composition of some of the boards and commissions. So here you can see representation from different wards across the city. And also take a look at age. And I will also mention we'll have an opportunity during the Q&A to really dive into this deeper if anyone has some additional questions. This is nice because it provides a comparison to the census data, just kind of reiterating the fact that boards and commissions really should be reflected of their communities. A quick look at gender and race and ethnicity. Once again, you can see the census data there on the right. And education. So this just gives you, a little frame of reference for the current makeup of board and commission committee members. I'd like now to welcome Ashley and Holly to talk. Ashley is serving on the Environmental Advisory Council as vice chair, and Holly Streeter-Schaefer is serving on the Planning Commission as chair. And first of all, I want to thank you both, Ashley and Holly, for your time today. But just wanted to take a moment for you to share a little bit about yourself and the board and commission that you serve on. So Ashley, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thank you, Beth. So I am employed currently by Optum Health. That's my day job. I've taken, I've moved to from Prairie Village to Overland Park about 11 years ago. So the very first thing I did when I actually moved to Overland Park was reach out to the mayor. And at that point in time, it was Carl Gerlach, and indicated to him, I'm very interested in serving in any capacity in our community, and started on a community development block grant committee as kind of my first entry into participating in citizen public advisory committees. And then over the past couple of years have actually sat on our environmental advisory council, which again is a part of the plural authority, and has served 2 years as the vice chair. And the mission of that council is really to be an advisory group to the Planning Commission and to our elected officials. We put together a prioritized statement of work each year that looks at different areas of the environment, environmental justice, as well as how we can impact citizens in our committee. We submit that to the Planning Council, and also then look at our program of work and how it aligns to those priorities. So it's been a great process to see over years what additional projects we can put in place that align to the strategy, how we can influence and give advice on city policies, and look at how we move Overland Park to a more environmentally friendly organization, and really be there for the future. And many of us have kids that are on the Environmental Advisory Council. So, women and children, is a lot of times we don't think of that as being represented. And so it's nice to see that, because many of us are thinking about what does the future bring for our city to those who will be future residents.
Thanks, Ashley. And Holly, you want to tell us a little bit about your background and serving on planning?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and welcome. Good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm an attorney at Burns & McDonnell. I have an undergraduate degree in construction engineering, which is how I usually explain to people how I get on planning commission, planning and zoning with a lawyer's background. I do mostly construction law, and I have since I graduated from law school. So I have a background in the construction with an engineering undergrad. And I've been on various boards with the city of Overland Park since I pretty much moved to the city. I think it's going on 15 years now. Just like Ashley, I was on the same community development block grant committee. That's how I got started. Got interested in the planning and zoning piece after spending some time in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals to get a house my husband and I were building in Ward 1 of Overland Park moved back in terms of a setback that required a change in the zoning. And from there, I got on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I was on the Code Board of Appeals as well. And then an opportunity came in 2018 for me to look at potentially going on to the Planning Commission. And I talked to Mary Gerlach as well, who was the mayor at the time. And Mary Skoog, unfortunately, just kind of inherited me and continues to appoint me to the Planning Commission. But it's been great. I've enjoyed all the boards that I've been on for the city of Overland Park. They're some of the most interesting things on boards that I've been on, I should say. I've been on a number of boards throughout my career and time in Kansas City. And when asked, I always say Planning Commission is probably one of my favorites. It's a community commission, all appointees, people from all over the different wards of Overland Park. And what we do is we take action essentially on applications that come before us in regards to final development plans, preliminary development plans, and plats for those. We host public hearings. We meet once a month, and almost every month there are items that require public hearing on. And we make recommendations to the city council on rezoning, if we have any rezoning items that come before us as a commission, special use permits, preliminary development plans, and other issues. We also take a very active role in the comprehensive plan for the city, as well as the capital improvements program, which some of you may hear as a CIP.
Thanks, Holly. And Holly, you kind of mentioned this briefly, but can you elaborate a little bit on, a little bit more on why you decided to apply, and, why do you invest your time in serving?
I've always been one of those people who can't say no when asked. And I do think that if we're going to complain, we should also serve and try to make things different about our communities or any other thing that we have issues or concerns with in society. And I think the city of Overland Park is a great city to live in. I want to help continue to make it a great place to live in. And Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals and Code Board of Appeals and even the CDBG block grant committee that I initially started on all provide opportunities for people to get involved in their communities and have a say in how we look at things as a city, as a community. And one of the reasons why I really got involved in some of these is that when you look at the makeup of a number of these different boards, and they're all appointed boards, we don't see a lot of women. And we don't see a lot of women that are younger, let's say 50 and under, in terms of going on to some of these boards. And as I was looking at it, I wanted to have a say for people who look like me, are in my age group, maybe in my demographic in terms of economic status, maybe in terms of the give back you give to the community. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to get involved. I think being part of a community and learning about your community in ways that you get when you are on these boards for a city, I think is invaluable. And I think most people will continue on, because we do have a number of people on the different boards that I've served that have been on for 10, 15, 20 years and well into their 60s and 70s, which I think is great, because I think we do need a broad view and scope of people sitting on our boards, especially at a city level, but also in a lot of our boards across all different types of industries.
Beth, if you're okay, I want to add to what Holly said as well. When I started serving on CDB, so I've been on CDBG as well for 10 years, EAC for 2 years, sat on our Infrastructure Advisory Council. And then also, as Holly says, these open up opportunities to have a point of view in things like our comprehensive plan. So again, sit on the environmental sub-council of the comprehensive plan for citizen advisory. So nice opportunities here. But when I moved to Overland Park, I saw less than one woman elected, making decisions for built infrastructure based on, I had an elementary, a kindergartner at the time, with nobody else making decisions based on, what we need for our future citizens. And so again, like Holly said, I think we need wide representation, but we are very underrepresented with women who have children who are the lead decision makers.
And Ashley, appreciate that your comments as well. What was kind of the tipping point, Ashley, for you to decide, okay, today I'm going to apply?
I have a master's in public administration. So I went to KU, have a master's there. I don't use it in my everyday life. So again, when I moved to Overland Park, I am less than 1 mile away from where I got my master's. I take my daughter to golf across the street from where I got my master's. And it was one of the things I said, I use it from a federal level, but not at a local level. So KU does such a great job of preparing many of its students for local leadership around public service, public engagement, and a public service career. And I said, I need to put that to play in my everyday life. And honestly, most of the decisions we make at many of these subcommittee or council levels with citizen input go straight into policy that impact my family every day. So it was really seeing that full circle, and then always, like Holly said, you just raise your hand. They'll find a place for you.
Fantastic. I'd like to transition a little bit to hear some of the work and the outcomes of the work that these boards and commissions do. So Ashley, can you provide kind of an example of some of the projects or outcomes from the Environmental Advisory Council?
Absolutely. And I will pair EAC and CDBG together, maybe so that you can see a lot of times it's not just one council, but we're actually starting to do a better job of making decisions not in silos as well, when we have multiple citizens who participate across different boards and commissions over a series of time, which I think is great for our city and great for our citizens. But one of the things that we put forward this year that was both supported by CDBG and by the EAC, was a pilot program to be able to help low-income citizens apply for reimbursement for energy efficient upgrades in their homes. So again, we're looking at two things together. But CDBG really helps around low income housing, being able to support citizens across the income levels and lower income through HUD, and also our public service grants such as rent assistance and things like that. And then we pair that with what EAC really wants to promote, which would be rebates on energy efficiency, programs through the city that look at how we impact our built environment, our parks, our rec, et cetera. And then also pairing that with the low income energy efficient rebates. So again, we really want to see things that coalesce, come together, and hit all different priorities of the city in one program. And I think it's a great example of one that we've put forward in the last year.
Some great work. Holly, could you talk a little bit about Planning Commission? I feel sometimes you're in the limelight a little bit more than some of the others. So maybe some success stories.
Definitely have seen that the last 2 years of my time as chair. We've seen a lot of, I would say, more controversial things in terms of just development and the citizens. And in terms of, success for us, I think as a planning commission is finding a way to make sure that we look at what the citizens are concerned with, but also not stifling development and redevelopment of some of our older areas of Overland Park. And I think we sometimes forget that there is Overland Park north of 435 just as much as there is south of 435, which is kind of like that dividing line. And I live in the very northern part of Overland Park. I'm less than a mile from Merriam and Mission and Prairie Village. And it's a very much an older neighborhood. And so when we start seeing some of these things come before us in terms of redevelopment, we want to look at the character and making sure that we're keeping certain things vibrant, but also not stifling the development of those older areas. I think in the past 2 years from the Planning Commission with things that come to us, we've come up with new planning and zoning has come up with a new sign ordinance that I think allows both the citizens to have access to knowledge in regards to buildings and what we're putting up on the sides of buildings, near roads, near entrances to different areas of commercial, retail, and also making sure that we're not cluttering our landscape, not cluttering where we drive and making it more difficult to focus on the road than things that we might put up in terms of signage. So I think we've done a great job on that in the last 2 years. And then special use permits. Special use permits probably don't come up in most people's daily lives unless you own a business and you want to put in the middle of a residential area, maybe a drug treatment center, or we have religious centers that want to go into more of residential areas or other things like that. If you want to open a doggy daycare or a grooming salon, those are all special permits within the city of Overland Park. And those are the things that come to us. And we were getting so many of those on a daily basis that we've looked at that and kind of streamline the process. Another one is, I always call it chickens in the backyard. That was another permit process that we changed in the last 2 years so that for the requirements that the city has in order to have chickens in your residential property in the city of Overland Park, those don't come before the Planning Commission anymore. The city has the ability to take those on and manage those permits, because essentially it's another kind of special use permit, and manage those permits without having to come to the Planning Commission, so that we're focused on bigger issues that affect much broader communities than maybe just a resident and a couple of neighbors, that we're allowing the city, I think, to deal with those types of issues on a neighbor by neighbor basis, which is probably a much better use than requiring public hearings and things like that on whether or not people can have 2 chickens in their backyard in the city of Overland Park. All very important issues. So I don't want to detract from that, especially if it's in your backyard. But we also want to make sure we leave enough time, because we are limited on time in all of our meetings, to make sure we hear a lot of the issues that you do see on the TV sometimes at night, and some of the issues that are a little more controversial for a broader scope of the city of Overland Park.
Thanks, Holly. Ashley, do you have any words of wisdom for women who are interested in serving on a board or commission?
I'll kind of go back to what I said before. So always raise your hand. So there are not enough women, so we're underrepresented. So we need more just to say yes. And again, there's a wide range. I think Holly and I have talked about a couple different commissions. So the time commitment is not always, doesn't have to be the most intense time commitment. So it can fit into your schedule. I know, again, I bring the perspective of I've sat on multiple boards and commissions while having a full-time career, while having a child in elementary school, and it works. It can work for your schedule. So again, there are councils and committees that may only take up 1 hour every other month. And then there are councils and committees that are scheduled. And what's nice is that the city does schedule them out. So you have it planned for the full year. You can work it into your calendar, but you have to say yes first. So just, be sure to continue to raise your hand.
Appreciate that, Ashley. Holly, any words of wisdom for women interested?
I would say find something you're passionate about and interested in. If you're going to spend the time and effort on it, make sure it's something you're interested in pursuing and taking part in. And like Ashley said, there are so many different ways to get involved. Planning Commission meets during the day. It's 1:30 on the second Monday of every month. City Council meets at night. And so the idea is to switch up a lot of these boards and a lot of these commissions to allow people to participate in different ways. A lot of the issues we hear at Planning Commission do go forward to the City Council. So maybe you can't attend the Planning Commission hearing, but you can attend the City Council meeting. And so a lot of these different boards and opportunities that you have to volunteer happen during different parts of the day. So you have different opportunities depending on what you're interested in doing. And like Ashley said, you just got to get started. Sometimes you're not going to be asked. Sometimes you got to go out there and look and see what's available. And I'm happy to have any conversation with anybody. I meet with a lot of people who are interested in joining the Planning Commission. We always want to make sure I always call people on the bench. So we have a lot of people that we want to meet with and let them know about what we do and a time commitment and what it's like. And happy to meet with anybody on any of the boards that I've served on, or if you have questions about getting started, anytime. I just think you have to take that initiative, because sometimes it's not easy to put yourself out there. And I think sometimes we just have to kind of get out of our comfort zone and do it.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Ashley and Holly, both for your service in the community, but for taking time today to share your stories about civic leadership and encouraging other women to follow in your path. So thank you. And there will be an opportunity during the Q&A portion here in just a few minutes to ask additional questions of Holly and Ashley regarding boards and commissions. So as we've talked about, you're ready and qualified to apply. It's just a matter of finding the board and commission for you. And so we wanted to give the opportunity to talk a little bit about the process. And so I'm going to turn it over to the city clerk, Elizabeth Kelly, to talk about applications and what it looks like from the inside in terms of applying.
Good afternoon. I'm the city clerk for Overland Park, and I assist with the incoming applications for any individuals who express interest in serving on a board or commission for Overland Park. We have an interest form on our website. Currently, we have 16 active boards, commissions, or plural authorities. 7 of those groups serve in a legislative capacity or a quasi-judicial capacity. 9 of those groups serve as an advisory board and provide recommendations to the City Council regarding programs, services, etc. So we do have an easy process, what we think is an easy process on the city website. You can go online and click the button for our interest form. Individuals who are interested in serving will be asked just some basic information, providing your contact information, what ward you reside in, if you're a city resident, some general information for why you have an interest in serving with the City of Overland Park, and what maybe board or commission you have an interest in serving in. And you can provide us with information on multiple boards and commissions should you have an interest in more than one area. We do have a new questionnaire for new appointments so that we can kind of have an understanding of why you're interested in volunteer service with the city, and so that you can share some information with us to provide your experience and background as it relates to serving on a board and commission. And then if you have any information with regards to other community involvement that you'd like to share with us, we provide an opportunity for you to provide that information to us as well. Included on our application form, you can upload a resume. That's not required, but if you have that information and you'd like to share it with us, we certainly appreciate receiving it. As far as a process goes, once the city receives your interest form, I disseminate that information to both city staff and the mayor for his consideration. The mayor reviews all of the incoming applications, as he is ultimately the individual who will elect when to put somebody up for appointment. All appointments go to our city council for confirmation. And once the city council has approved an appointment, those individuals will be notified by either email or mail that you have been appointed to serve, the term of office that you will serve, and any information about upcoming meetings. So that's kind of our just general process that we use.
Great, thank you. How long do you keep applications on file? Would someone need to submit one, after a certain amount of time, or what's that process?
So we maintain the information. We do not get rid of it. We do notify individuals annually that we're holding the information for them.
Fantastic. And for all of the boards and commissions, do you need to be a resident of Overland Park?
You do not. So each board and commission has policy considerations for who serves. So some individuals will be required to be a resident. Some boards and commissions, it's based on experience and what your professional background is.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And once again, we'll be excited to answer any questions. Elizabeth will be on to answer any questions regarding specifics of the application process. Just wanted to share, here's a QR code for United We's Appointments Project, and we can be a resource for you. We do provide a toolkit that's applicable for the city, county, and state level in terms of board and commission opportunities, and just gives you kind of a frame of reference for civic leadership and how that might differ a little bit from other types of boards like nonprofit boards. So I encourage you to join our network and learn a little bit about us and United We. I now would love to open it up to Q&A, and would love to hear any questions that the group has, either about whether it be specifics on the application process, or maybe it's just sharing similar stories from Holly and Ashley in terms of, what it's like to serve. And feel free, I know the chat is open, but also, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions. I would love to, one question that we commonly get that I'd like to start out with is, what does the time actually look like for the boards and commissions that you've served on? Is there prep time? Is there post time after the meeting? But overall, what is the time commitment to serve? I don't know, Holly or Ashley?
Yeah, I can tell you from the standpoint of the Board of Zoning Appeals and Code Board of Appeals for the city of Overland Park, those are not as, excuse me, as much of a time commitment as Planning Commission. They probably, at least Code Board of Appeals only meets when there's an issue, which they could go months and maybe you only have one issue a year that you're even looking at. And almost always, when I was on that board, they met at night. So after the workday. And then Board of Zoning Appeals, kind of the same thing. You don't always have to meet if there's not an issue that comes up. And I think when I was on that board, it was probably maybe every other month, and there wasn't a lot of prep. Planning Commission's a little different. We get a packet. Because I'm chair, I meet with the planning department on the Friday morning before the Monday meeting, and we meet to go over any issues or concerns, kind of get an idea of how long it's going to take, because like I said earlier, our meetings are from a certain point in time. And if we go later, we have to approve as a commission and vote to approve to extend the time that we're meeting. So sometimes we can't because there's city council or something else after us. And so we have to be done by a certain point in time because we meet in the city council room at the city. So we are in some cases on a time limit. And so we want to look at that. And so we meet, and then the planning commissioners get a packet. I review mine online, but a lot of the planning commissioners get hard copies. It just depends on what your preference is. The city works with you on that. And we go through every one of the items in detail, both for the consent agenda as well as our regular agenda, and look at the issues so that we have questions ready to ask of the applicant, to ask of the city staff, from the planning department, if it's a planning department issue that's come before us, or a matter that's come before us. And so it's a lot more time. If you're not the chair, you really don't have a lot of commitment afterwards in terms of follow-up, but there are things, meetings, appointments that we have to make as chair. And all of our committee, or all the commission members, also sit on committees for the planning commission. So there will be other meetings that you will attend maybe once a month for about an hour, in addition to the time you spend reviewing the items on the agenda for the planning commission meeting and then attending the planning commission.
Great. Ashley?
I can, yeah, and I'll give you a few different committees because I think it's nice to see the variety as well. So for the Environmental Advisory Council, we meet monthly, and it is always structured on the same day, the same evening, so it's easy to schedule. As the vice chair, we do have an officers meeting, so we've actually scheduled that because it's all women in our officers, which is the first time that has happened, so it's pretty exciting. We all have kids, so we actually structure our officers meeting right after our EAC meeting. So it's a long night, but in advance, but we don't have to meet a second time. We are planning our agenda meeting based on feedback from the immediate meeting we just had and the topics that we've talked about. And then I will give the biggest shout out to all of the staff in the city. So we have a sustainability manager in Overland Park that is really that does a great job organizing everything around our environmental efforts and the council. And then, to show something that's different, two things that are different, CDBG is very different. So again, we get an allocation from HUD. It's a grant program. The advisory council really goes through an applicant process. We have presentations from applicants, and then the group makes decisions on where HUD funding can go through that program. So again, defined timeline. It is not all year. You may participate in at a heavy amount of time when you're reviewing grant applications for the CDBG funding, and that may be over June, July, August, and September. But the rest of the year, you may only meet once. And then lastly, I did serve on the Infrastructure Advisory Council. My position was the only named position. So I didn't have to apply for it, but as part of the creation of the commission, that it was named that there would be a representative from the Environmental Advisory Council. So again, a different way to get into serving, and again, that was a process. That was a very time intensive process. So we spent 13 full months looking at all of the infrastructure cost, budgeting, priorities for the city. It was like a master class in infrastructure because we would get about 100 pages of pre-work for each monthly meeting. We would have to do pre-assessments, pre-surveys, and then we spent about 2.5 and sometimes 3.5 hours a month together, and then came up with very large recommendations back to our lead council people who were on that commission. So, but again, it was time limited. It was 13 months in all, and it was scheduled out. So, very, very unique opportunities. That's why I say there's something out there for everybody, because whether you have a lot of time to give or a little amount of time to give, it can be structured nicely around, what's available to you.
Perfect. Very helpful. Another question, Elizabeth, this would go to you. Is there a season to appointments? Meaning, is there a better time to apply than another?
There is not. So appointments are filled either based on vacancy or when the mayor decides to make a new appointment to a board. So I would recommend at any time that you have an interest in serving that you go ahead and submit your application. Like I said, we'll keep that information on file, and when a position opens up or a new position is created, then we will reach out and contact you to ensure that you're still interested in serving.
Perfect. And then also, Elizabeth, do you need to know Robert's rules to serve on a board or commission, and how well do you need to know them?
You do not. As far as our advisory boards, many of the structure of those meetings are a little more informal. Planning Commission does follow some rules and regulations, so the chair generally leads you through that process. So no, you don't need to know the Robert's Rules of Order in order to participate.
Great.
We like to say we use Robert's Rules light version. So it's a nice way to, if you've never participated in it before, it's a great way to learn, some of the structure of Robert's Rules, but you definitely do not have to have the handbook memorized.
And the city staff is so great on making sure that you follow it. Like, do we need separate motions? And I'm the chair, and I ask all the time, do we need separate motions for this, or can we do it in one? Do we need to open this up for another public hearing, or have we already gone through one? And Planning Commission is a little bit different because we typically have a city attorney that sits with us during our meetings in case issues come up. So we have that extra level. But I don't ever seem to have a problem of just asking and being like, okay, I don't know. This is something new. How do we handle it? And staff is so good at, one, not making you feel incompetent, but also having the right answer every time.
That's great. And we certainly would not want that, we wouldn't want that to be a barrier from women applying to serve. And what great mentors right here to kind of help other women along the way to learn the process. So I don't see any additional questions, but I do encourage anyone on the call who does have additional questions to reach out either to myself at United We Appointments Project, or those on the call, the city staff, once again, is a great resource and can be very helpful for you in starting your civic leadership journey. We would ask that you take a moment to fill out our poll about today's programming, and really appreciate everyone's time today in joining the call, and hope you really consider serving on a board or commission. And United We hope that you join our network for additional resources. So thanks again, and I really appreciate everyone's time today, city staff, Kelly and Holly and Ashley, for really sharing your stories, your personal stories, for those on the call today. So thank you and have a great afternoon.